Before we start talking about sexual energy, it's important that we talk about the overall concept of energy first. The energy I'm talking about here is not electricity. It's vital energy, magnetism. No matter what occult, spiritual, or philosophical teaching, irrespective of the school and period, we find the concept regarding this force to be identical, although the names employed may vary greatly and the theory behind it might be different. The Chinese call this energy qi, which means breath, air, wind, or energy, and it's similar in meaning to the Sanskrit word of prana, what Reich called orgone energy or Freud called instinct. This raw energy is the force of all movement, from the movement of waves and subatomic particles to the movement of stars and planets. It's the force moving world systems into creation, existence, and destruction. Everything manifests out of it, exists as a form of energy, and returns to the energy. In living creatures, it becomes the life force and source of all metabolism. This principle of all energy into the universe is present everywhere. Wherever there is life, there is prana or magnetism, or whatever word that we use to gain a better intellectual idea of this force. While prana is the energy that we all use, it's not the soul or ego. No, prana is the energy that our soul uses. It may be regarded as the soul of force and energy in all forms. We are constantly inhaling the air charged with prana, constantly extracting prana from it, and magnetic individuals learn how they can consciously store it up and control it. Although this energy is a metaphysical construct, rather than something which can be physically quantified and measured, belief in qi is really widespread in many Eastern nations. Many cultures have a concept of some sort of vital energy which runs through all things, just as prana in the yoga tradition. Balancing this energy is a crucial part of living a healthy and calm life for many people in Asian countries, and the concept of energetic balance has been adopted by some Western nations as well. And prana is the vital force that sustains not only the body, but also creation at every level. This energy really is a package of mysteries, and definitely not something that can be explained or taught in a word or two. As humanity developed, several traditions focused on developing this energy for higher purposes, like yoga, qigong, tai chi, and so on. Every yogic science, meditation, yoga, and so on, is aimed at awakening and enhancing this vital force within the unit of the individual or the wider universe. You can also get it from food or the earth, sun, and water. Prana is inherent to a being. We are born with a certain quantity of prana and we maintain it, increase or decrease it through the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the thoughts that we think, the action that we perform, and the kind of life in general that we lead. When we die, the accumulation of prana leaves the body. Some people are even naturally born with this kind of energy more developed. There's not just one way to cultivate this energy inside of you, but many. But to most of these practices, they will require time and effort, since they are all ancient traditions that take a lot of time and effort to learn and master. And it wouldn't be practical to just tell you, go do some yoga in order to develop the energy required for our sexual magnetism purposes. Since this alone will require a good amount of time, commitment, and effort to take it seriously. So, aside from having to master all the other exercises from this course, you would also have to master yoga practices, which is a lifetime in itself. And even because the yoga that you might do might not be enough. One thing is that if you do a class once a week or so, and another is that if you really follow a yogi lifestyle. Obviously, this is the same thing with yoga or any other discipline. Just because you might do some tai chi on your gym Monday morning, it doesn't mean that your energy is well developed for our purposes. In order to get a good amount of energy from tai chi or whatever, you'll have to take it much more seriously than that. But fortunately, you won't have to do any of these practices to develop sexual magnetism. The first teacher who taught this in the Western world realized that most people wouldn't do any kind of yoga or related energetic practices. We were too busy over here. So he found out the very core exercises that we need to do in order to work with this system. You won't need a fully developed energetic practice like Tai Chi, since you don't need this energy for healing or health, but just for our uses in the sexual and personal magnetism. Now let's talk about the energy qualities and that will require to develop sexual magnetism. There are different qualities that can be elicited by your energy. These give your energy different traits and distinct feelings in your body if you are aware of them. It's interesting that most people don't really know what is happening inside their own bodies and mind. And awareness is one of the most important traits someone can have, especially when it's related to energy. it's important that you keep on lowering your threshold of perception. What does this mean, threshold of perception? This threshold of perception is the point at which you become aware of something. Below a certain level of, for example, sound, you may not be able to hear it. It is there, yeah. Test equipment could really measure it being there, but we only hear it once. It exceeds our threshold of perception, once it goes above it. This is not a fixed point, because perception is a mental process involving recognition and interpretation of a physical stimulus. We may be concentrating on something else, and so we not become aware of the stimulus. You may be whispering to me, but I will not hear you if I have music playing at full volume. To reach my threshold of perception, you may have to shout in my ears. But in the still of night, when the room is quiet, I will hear your whisper very easily. So if we have a high threshold of perception, we need a bigger bang, so to speak, in order to hear something. And if we have a low threshold of perception, we need a much smaller bang in order to hear it. And related to energy, people, except those already trained, will have a very high threshold of perception, which means that most people can't recognize this energy inside of them, and of others, of course, except when it already achieves a high enough point that you can feel it. So the more you lower this threshold of perception, the more you can identify and feel several different qualities of energy inside of yourself, and the more you can work with them. We can talk about several different kinds of energy, like fear that releases hormones the animals can easily smell, tension energy and sexual energy, we'll talk more detailed in a second, healing energy, and so on. There's all kinds of distinct energy qualities inside of ourselves that are present, but we can only identify and work with them if we lower our threshold of perception by training a very specific kind of awareness. This course is not an energetic training per se, so we won't dig deep into this concept of energy and its qualities, as well as awareness of different energetic senses. No, the goal here is to understand, identify, and work with only two distinct types of energy: tension energy and sexual energy. I'll explain you both and why these two fit together in this training, and especially by doing the exercise, you'll lower your threshold of perception regarding these two types of energy. Now, before we move, why only these two types of energy? With the many available types of energy, certainly we could develop more. Why only these two for sexual magnetism? Or why not only develop sexual magnetism and leave the tension energy alone? In short, the tension energy gives the energetic and charismatic background that allows the sexual magnetism to have a much stronger impact. Developing sexual magnetism alone would be a worthwhile endeavor, and I'm sure that everyone would take benefits out of it. But we want to maximize its effects. We want to make sure you take the maximum potential out of it and the best bang for your buck, so to speak. So we develop the tension energy along with the sexual magnetism. The tension energy, in this context, will act like a strong foundational background under which the sexual magnetism will flow much better. Think of it like building a well-lubricated channels into which the energy can flow freely. Aside from this first reason, it also gives an additional reason of creating a stronger impact. With the sexual energy alone, you may give a seducer's vibration, but by joining it with the tension energy, it creates a stronger vibration of charisma and personal magnetism alongside with the seducer's magnetism. So not only you create a sexual energy, but you'll also join the backdrop of charisma and personal magnetism. And you don't need that many exercises or effort in order to become aware and develop tension energy. So the few more minutes that you need to spend with tension energy exercises, well, it's well worth the extra effort.